Hi empaths, welcome back to my channel and back to Journey Through the Tarot. This week we're talking about our experience with the Page of Wands and introducing the history, symbolism, and divination of the Knight of Wands. This journey is inspired by Dirty and Divine, a transformative journey through tarot by Alice B. Grist. She spent a day with each card and we're doing a week. A lot of the information is coming from one of my tarot teachers' books, Robert M. Place, the Tarot History, Symbolism, and Divination. And we're working with the Waite-Smith Symbolism in the Rider Tarot deck. If you need to pick up any of those items, they're in my Amazon store. I'll link that in the description. Sorry about shaking the camera there. So let's get right into it. So our week with the page. And remember, a page can be a younger man who's creative and passionate. And this week on my podcast, we had our first guest, and it was my friend who made his Broadway debut this year. He's a performing artist. He is an entertainer. I've always seen him as a star. I've always called him my star. So he was on the podcast. So that was significant, and I think that was really on point with the Page of Wands. The Page of Wands can also symbolize going back into childhood, right? And looking there to gain wisdom from the inner child. And that's interesting because that information came up this week in the reading videos, and I had come across a video about how when people are asking questions about career and what should they do for work and all of that, there was a video that was saying it's not as much about what you do, but how you do it, and doing it with the boldness of a child, the boldness you had and often lose, right, as you become more and more self-aware and self-conscious. So that came up as well. So I'm really excited to have you watch that episode as soon as it's up. I'll link the channel for the Rant podcast in the description. That'll be out maybe even by the time this is published. That new episode, it'll be episode 5. And so I'm excited. Check that out. And the one before that was talking about me and my childhood and growing up and making the discovery that I'm an actor and, the sort of process of really figuring that out for myself, and seeing the clues in my ancestry, right? Seeing how it showed up for me there. And also looking back on childhood, thinking about how we would film sketches. I had ideas for finding different locations to film and do creative work so that I had space to do that. And one of the places we used to do that is my parents have this room that they built above the garage, like a second floor to their garage, where they put like full-length mirrors up so that I would have a mirror wall to dance and rehearse dancing. And we used to film there as children, sketches and ideas. And I was thinking back to that and how interesting it is that I've done most of the stage work I've done in New York was sketch comedy. And also I was a writer and a performer for a lot of sketch comedy, and some of them were film projects and some of them were stage. But yeah, I was thinking about that. Yeah. And then also what was coming up for the Page of Wands information was working with a mentor that will help you. So I'm curious if that showed up for anybody this week. I have scheduled a healing session with my mentor tomorrow, which will be the same day this publishes, and also a business alchemy meeting that night. And then the next day, the following day, I'll be meeting with one of my good friends to talk about creating the, I think I talked about this last time, creating the a deep dive session in her pro crystal healer training about diving deep into the shadow with trauma work. So I'm interested to talk to her about that and see how we can collaborate there. So I really love collaborating. So it's interesting that the meeting isn't happening the week of the Page of Wands, that we kind of just scheduled it, right? Because the page is sort of just making a proclamation. There's a spark here of a creative idea, but no movement yet, right? The movement comes, the action comes with the Knight. The Knight is the action. So that's interesting, right? It's like this young person, but also can be a young phase in a business or a venture or idea. So that's interesting how that showed up for me this week. It's also interesting to see how different people are on their different journeys, particularly as we look at Black Lives Matter and all of that, right? How some people can't really get on board with that language for whatever reason. It triggers them. And I had been candid about how there was a time where I was that way too, where the first time I heard it years ago when I was still in New York City, I saw someone post that hashtag, and I got triggered thinking, why does your life mean more than mine? Right? I didn't get it yet. I really didn't get it. This week I did a lot more sort of inner reflection, while also noticing how many other people aren't really doing that. I don't think that maybe they get the extent of what we're facing here. Otherwise, I can't imagine that they would turn a blind eye. And it's often the people that you would think would need to do the most inner work, but there's a lot of talking from people who should probably do more listening. So I find that interesting. I know that I've felt, even though my work in its nature is healing, is inclusive, is creating more unity, right? Anything that's spiritual, the idea is to harmonize, create more unity, to provide tools for everybody's healing and growth. And even I was thinking, maybe I should just have a week where I'm silent and just listen and I thought, well, that's a good intention, but there might be people that need the tools, right? That, feel helped and supported by the work. So it's not like I post, and no judgment on anything that people post, because I think it's all, usually with the idea of entertaining and, connecting. So like no shame in whatever you post, but I felt like maybe there was like importance to share the information. I did pull back a lot because I was posting like 3 times a day on social media, and I pulled it back to once, and then my videos here on YouTube. So yeah, still, you know, educating myself, breaking down any of the constructs that, you know, looking back at put something into perspective for me. This young black girl named Ruby who was the first to integrate in her particular school. None of the other students would stay in class with her. I don't know if you saw this story going around on social media. I hadn't heard this before. And there was one teacher that was willing to teach her. So she attended class alone. She was, you know, called terrible things, and the white people really protested her being there. And that was not that long ago. So that was during, I think, still when my parents were, you know, children and going to school. So that really puts it into perspective. It's like it was not that long ago where we were still integrating schools. So, I mean, for any one of us to believe that, hey, we're out of that, we're post whatever, right? We're post racism, it doesn't work like that. There's aftermath, right? There's a system that we have to just reform, you know, reconfigure. And that takes time, that takes constant attention and having ideas and plans to do so. And I don't think looking to one politician is going to do it either. You know what I mean? I feel like it's going to be up to the people to figure this out too. And I think that's how it was intended to be. We just sort of forgot, you know, or a lot of us didn't realize that we had a part to play there. So that's another thing my friend talked about on the podcast, was how in the Broadway community they're making changes and you know, really taking this opportunity to, while there's momentum, right? That's important. And then to maintain that progress will also be important. It might not happen as quickly as we'd like. I continued to kind of watch movies that were based on true stories. 12 Years a Slave was hard to watch, but it was actually recommended by a friend who had to take some time to really put everything into perspective for himself. And then he also recommended a movie called The Hate U Give, and which I found very I think it was a helpful tool to see how complex it can be. But social issues like that. And yeah, I think it was well done to show maybe why people struggle to sort of understand. Like it showed the different sides in a way, and and it really helped my friend understand, right? Because he was questioning. He was like, wow, that movie really called me out, because he was one of those people like who was sort of focused on the fact that George Floyd wasn't a saint, right? So why are we he thought that maybe we shouldn't be using him in the way we were for the protesting and things, that it made it seem like we were making a saint out of a sinner or something. And then after he watched that movie, and he asked me to watch it as well, he was like, this movie really called me out. Now I really get it. I understand why I was maybe looking in the wrong place at what was happening. And he's done a lot of growth over this time. And I think I'm really proud of him. I feel like we've grown together a lot. I have other friends who we've done a lot of talking in safe spaces, having conversations, and just unpacking a lot of things that, right, because when I've made changes, I've always been committed to growth. But I've also been perfectionistic at times in my life, and I still grapple with that. And, there's a problem with that when when you have to look at something and go through a shift or a transformation, and it's not a clear end and a clear beginning. It's not going to be a perfect process. You're going to make mistakes, make missteps, and I think so I wasn't always comfortable having conversations or looking at those thoughts in myself, the biases and things that are brainwashing, are conditioning. Everybody has it. We all have to look at it, right? No one's immune to that brainwashing. So the things we see in the media, the words and the language that's used, it has an effect. And I think we're starting to really get that. At least I know I am. I'm starting to really understand. The last couple of years, I really started to awaken to that fact that I'm not immune. I thought I'm woke, I have intuition, I can spot the truth. And I didn't understand how susceptible I am. And I should have seen that, because I am kind of I can be very naive in a lot of ways, that if someone spins a narrative a certain way, I might believe it. Although I've known for a while not to trust the media, but I have been susceptible to someone spinning a narrative one way and being like, oh, I get it. Okay, yeah, I know the truth now. And then someone else telling their side of a story, and then I'm thinking, oh, good point. Yeah, now I'm on their side now. And then another person making a comment, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, this isn't all that simple, is it? So I have been susceptible to that language and the narrative. And the media is no exception. I really have to take in things from all sides. The most growth I've done is when I've been the most uncomfortable. Those times where I was really ignorant, and I said things that, with my black friends, hanging with my black friends and saying something and just being called out, like, what did you just say? And thinking, oh, I didn't even realize that could be, that was based on a racial bias, right? Sometimes I just didn't even consider these things. And I'm so grateful for my time in New York City, being around a diverse group of people. It's the best education you'll ever get. So, really finding my people there too, like lifelong friends, people that I really appreciate who they are, and they get me, and it's okay to be human, So it's been an interesting journey. I've been trying to wake up earlier, so I feel pretty tired. I've been trying to wake up earlier so that I have more time in the sunlight. So the sun's a symbol of success, and I feel like if you have more hours in the sunlight, you have more productive hours, and so that's something I'm working on. So I nearly teared up there. I had to catch myself. It's like, nope, not this time, not going to get me. I was thinking back to performances in New York, right? Because the wands are the creative suit. It's the passion, it's the creativity, it's that fire and things that drive you, right? What are you driven by? And for me, it's creative arts, creating in general. And I was thinking back to some of my favorite projects. And most of them were comedy, right? I think almost all of them. Yeah, just thinking about those people that I worked with, and yeah, they were really good times. I think that's about it for this week. I'm sure a lot more happened. I'm trying to keep it concise though, because last week was a bit much. I went on and on and on. But that's pretty much what my week with the Page of Wands was like. I can't think if there's anything else really relevant. Oh, another idea that kind of solidified for me this week was how, your psychology, the way you think, weeding out irrational thoughts is probably the best thing you can do for success in all areas of life. For me in particular, I've had disordered eating for my entire life. I mean, it's an ancestral wound. It's something that I inherited from my grandmother on my dad's side. And I think she took it on too. I don't think it started with her either. My father has struggled with it in his adult life. And I've had this really tricky relationship. It's like a minefield walking through, kind of obsession, like fixation on starving myself, fixation on exercise, fixation on food itself, which leads to binging. And there were times where I was using diet pills and that would be my meal. Right? It's like, my mantra was, I would rather be dead than fat for many years. It's really scary when you think about it. And, I don't know that any woman's really immune to objectifying her body, but I mean, particularly as a dancer, starting dance at 4 and all you having to be in tights and leotard. I mean, you're obsessing about how you look in that, using your body in that way as sort of your artistic tool is, it makes you, and if you have the tendency to fixate, right, which I do, it can become a problem, particularly if, you don't really have the tools to manage it successfully. You don't really know how. And when you have caregivers talking about your body all the time, in not so nice ways, it definitely affects you psychologically. And what I discovered this week was, like, I'm really good at starving myself for long periods of time. And that might just be limiting calories to another person. For me, it feels like starvation. And I realized this week that what I've been doing is really really healthy for me in that I eat really healthy, and then I make a mandatory cheat day every week. Because not only does that help with the thinking around my food, it also helps with metabolic confusion, which helps keep the weight loss going. It's been so helpful for me because every time I've lost a lot of weight, it's been through just sticking to the same diet every single day. That's basically what I would do. And it could be very healthy, but it's just like plant-based and healthy and all of that. But eventually I would go back to this, my body feeling starved and binging and gaining the weight back so quickly, particularly if I hadn't been building muscle during the weight loss phase. So now that I've made a mandatory cheat day every week, I find myself having to force myself to do it. It's really interesting how once I tell myself I have to do it, I don't want to do it. It's like reverse psychology or something. It's so strange. I can be very disciplined. A lot of the things I do, that it's required. You have to be disciplined to do it. And I have been very disciplined around eating, but I realized that it's not sustainable to only be disciplined. You got to have that day of rest. And when you make the day of rest mandatory, it does create that metabolic confusion for your body. When the cheat day is mandatory, it makes, your body doesn't get used to and then hit a plateau, right? It confuses it, it changes it up. And then it also, so you can consistently continue losing weight. And then also, you don't obsess about the foods you can't have. It doesn't make any food illegal, right? So, I thought that was really interesting. That it prevents me from fixating on it. That's something I haven't been able to manage for my entire life. I was either on a diet or off. It was never in between. So there were moments where I wasn't thinking about food, right? I was eating whatever I wanted, but it just wasn't that much because I was on stage. When you're performing on stage, I don't know, I guess maybe some people can. I guess opera singers have that reputation, right? Of binge eating late at night after shows and being bigger people. But when I was on stage, I just, you can't have heavy foods in your system and be on stage. I remember when I was performing every day on stage, I first of all wasn't thinking about food because I was thinking about the heightened state I'd have to manage on stage. And I knew that I couldn't eat a sandwich and then go on stage. My body can't do that. So, I was living off of eating very, very little. But I didn't think about food because I was living my passion. I was doing what I felt I was meant to be doing. So I think that's one way, staying on in your passion and that boldness of childhood and the creativity of, those things that you're carrying over. It's a right fit when you don't have to medicate yourself, right? And it was much less coffee. I don't even think I had coffee every day because, for me, it then becomes managing the heightened state of being on stage. So coffee's not always the best idea for that. It's when, and particularly for the empathic nervous system, right? Being an empath is an adaptation to trauma. So oftentimes empaths will find that we just do better in really intense, chaotic, tumultuous in situations and environments. It's when we have to deal with the mundane, the day-to-day, a comfortable life. It's just our nervous systems are still on high alert, waiting for waiting for danger, waiting for go time, and it's hard to get into rest and digest. So it's just so interesting how that's another way, like more proof. Like if you're trying to figure out what you should be doing, again, I think how you do it is more important. But whatever you decide to do, we're given clues in life, aren't we? Like, how's your nervous system wired, right? What hours do you like to be awake and be alive? Like, what feels best to you? I remember watching Trevor Noah talk about how he would, he went into comedy because it was perfect for his schedule. I think it was him. I remember him talking about this. It was perfect for his schedule because he liked getting up at 5 p.m. and then heading down to the comedy club. I thought that was really funny. Like there's all these clues, like those are the hours of a comedian. So there's all these clues in life about, what your strengths are, looking at your strengths as opposed to your weaknesses. And so much of success is about psychology though, and making it through challenging times. And that's another thing my friend Andre talked about on the podcast, using emotions and comparison to your benefit by making you come alive, turning on, showing up, being consistent, being persistent. Something that someone else might take and it would eat them alive. Like I know that comparison for me destroyed me in musical theater conservatory. It took away all my confidence because I used it to my detriment I used it to affect my self-image instead of my determination, right? To do better. I had a fixed mindset around that. And that's why growing is always the way to go. If you have a growth mindset, you're not afraid to say something silly or make a mistake or fail, right? Because you'll grow from it, and that's what's valuable to you. So fixing your thinking here, I think that was huge for me this week, really having those realizations. So anyway, that was my week with the Page of Wands. Let me know how yours was. Let's get into the Knight of Wands. So the history of the Knight of Wands, Robert M. Place's book. In the Golden Dawn's teachings on the Tarot, the knights are called princes, and they are said to represent power in action. All of Smith's knights are depicted engaged in action. The Knight of Wands, with his red horse and plume, and holding his wand in his bare hand, rides into the desert looking for new territory. His action is similar to the page's, but more forceful because of his steed. The knight has the same salamander on his surcoat as the page had on his tunic. So there's salamanders there. Waite is not sure if the landscape contained mounds or pyramids, although Smith's depiction is intentionally ambiguous. Perhaps if he had known that Smith based it on the Solabusca Knight of Batons, he would have seen that this detail is based on the 3 mounds seen behind the knight on that card. The knight is on a quest for new territory for his creative endeavor, or he may be searching for a mate. So that leads us right into the divination. What might it mean if this card shows up in a spread? Charging forward in passion. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Knight of Wands, charging forward in passion. Passionate partner coming in to sweep you off your feet. Chemistry, doesn't stick around. Casanova energy, someone who romances you then leaves. Sexual chemistry, feeling passion and moving forward without thinking things through. Impulsivity. He is shown as if upon a journey armed with a short wand, and although mailed is not a warlike errand. I guess maybe sort of like the postman, how they said the Page of Wands represented a postman. I guess mailed, because mailed is spelled M-A-I-L-E-D. Although mailed is not a warlike errand. He is passing mounds or pyramids. And that's what Robert was talking about. He didn't know that these were mounds because they were based on the Solabusca tarot, not pyramids. Departure, absence, flight, emigration, a dark young man, friendly, change of residence. And I don't know what they mean by dark young man. He looks kind of orangey to me, but all right, I'll trust you. And then Alice B. Grist's intuitive meaning, passionate, fiery, and full of your own power. You have used this for causes, thoughts, and people you believe in. Though at times you may have burned bridges, there may be a reckless element to your strong beliefs. Slinging arrows before perhaps having learned all the facts. Though this isn't all bad, you are a defender and a fighter with good reason too. Sometimes it is lonely to be the only one brave enough to speak up. It can lead to isolation as supporters drop away. Most important though is that you honor your heart. And then the Biddy Tarot. Energy, passion, inspired action, adventure, impulsiveness. While the Page of Wands marks the initial spark of a new idea, the Knight of Wands shows the actual pursuit of that idea. When this card appears in a tarot reading, you are charged up with energy, passion, motivation, and enthusiasm, and you channel that energy through your inspired action. You have a clear vision about what you want to create, and fueled by your passion and inspiration, you are now moving forward with leaps and bounds to turn your vision into reality. This card is your sign to go for it. You are bold and courageous and willing to venture into unknown territories to further your mission and your dreams. You don't really care if danger lies ahead. In fact, if it does, then it becomes all the more exciting and thrilling for you. Adventures like this light you up because you know growth and expansion are waiting on the other side. Be a pioneer and take calculated risks to reach new heights. In this light, the Knight of Wands gives you the feeling you can take on the world. You are so committed to your vision and purpose that you will stop at nothing to bring it to life. As you pursue your goals, your confidence skyrockets, and you realize that your potential is limitless. You can do anything. Your passion, enthusiasm, courage, and confidence are highly attractive to others. Others see you as highly charismatic and want to be in your presence to benefit from your energy. While you haven't yet mastered the art of bringing others along on your journey, like the Knight of Wands has, you do enjoy the extra attention that your charisma and ventures bring you. The question will be whether others can keep up with you, or if they are merely here to watch and absorb your energy by osmosis. Be mindful that the Knight of Wands can express himself as an act first, think later type of person. In your pursuit of action, you may be impulsive and impatient, expecting everything to be done yesterday. While you are bursting with energy, you have a tendency to rush into things with little consideration for the consequences of your actions. You may not have a clear plan of attack, hurting your chances of long-term success. If this resonates, find a way to focus your enthusiasm on the activities that will move you closer to your goal. When you have a new idea, rather than acting on it straight away, take a moment to check in and see if it truly aligns with your goals and whether it needs to happen right now. You may realize that you are better served by waiting for the opportune time to pursue this idea, especially if other waiting cards, such as the Hanged Man or Four of Swords, come up in your reading. Or you may realize that the time is now, and you can charge ahead with high energy and vibrancy. So that's what we'll be expecting for this week ahead. Let's play the singing bowl. Integrating. That also reminds me, a younger man I used to work with, his band Pink Star Universe, had a singing bowl concert that I posted on my Instagram. It was really powerful sound healing. Check out Pink Star Universe on YouTube and Instagram. They're really great sound healing duo. All right, so integrating our week with the Page of Wands and all those discoveries and synchronicities. And and I also had a new client that wanted to do face-to-face reading where we met on Skype, and so we got to look each other in the face, and I rather enjoyed it. I think I might start incorporating that more, doing more face-to-face work instead of just by phone. I really liked it. I felt like I connected more deeply. So breakthroughs, right? And then integrating the information that we just learned with the Knight of Wands with the sound. So you might want to get in touch with your breath, close your eyes. Nice. Coming back to the room. So I hope you had a great week with the Page of Wands. Thank you for sticking it out with me during this journey. I hope you're enjoying it. Really interesting to integrate these archetypes, right? And to see how these synchronicities show up outside of us as well as inside. All right, I hope you enjoy your week with the Knight of Wands. And thanks for liking the video, subscribing to the channel so I know you're with me here. I really appreciate that. If you want a personal reading or session, or to donate to the channel, thanks for the donations. They're really helping me out. Those will all be linked in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, Empath.